Good morning and welcome to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
Hump day already. Wow. Into double digits for the month of October.
Yes.
Of course, that was yesterday, but nevertheless.
Yes.
Moving
fast. Moving fast. We're going to be at the end of the year before we know it.
Boy, that's the truth. Meanwhile, things are not getting much better in the Middle East.
Definitely not. More stories coming out. We also need to remember that when war breaks out, a lot of propaganda also tends to be at the surface. Some of the reporting coming out of Israel is saying that there were 40 babies that were beheaded. The person releasing this information, it's only been verified by one person. It was, and it's someone that has some questionable things about them. So I don't know. I think we need to wait for more confirmations before we're reporting things like that. But regardless, we see enough images that it's horrible over there, and it's definitely not getting any better at this point.
The horrible images over here of people who are pro-Hamas demonstrating, especially at places like Harvard. My respect for Harvard has gone to, it was already pretty much in the toilet. Now it's just in the sewer. This is pathetic that they are standing up for these people who are beheading babies. And have you heard about, Brittany, about some of the other things, how they were murdering guys and then raping the women right next to their dead boyfriend, but they were also taking their cell phones and putting their faces up against it to get the password or whatever to get through their security, and they would and then they would start going on their social media and posting all this stuff. I mean, this is horror beyond. I think the MS-13 would be horrified by what they're seeing from these animals. And remember when I haven't heard from Nancy Pelosi on any of this, because remember when the President Trump called MS-13 animals, she started standing up for MS-13. We're all God's children. Remember all that? So we haven't heard much from the Democrats. And Omar Tlaib leads the list.
Yeah, she refused to answer any questions when someone from actually Fox News was asking her if she, was okay with what was going on, and she just kept walking, and they let her into the door without ever responding.
Why was it only a Fox News reporter that was asking her these questions? Why wasn't she being pursued by every one of the other reporters on the other alphabet networks?
Because that wasn't part of their marching orders. We don't have a press in this country that is honest. Independent news is where we're getting a lot of this information. Even Fox News, reporting on the beheading of children without having it verified by multiple sources, I'm a little bit concerned about. But we're seeing bodies burned alive. We're seeing all of that stuff. So, it's not unheard of that they're being, probably...
We're hearing from soldiers in the field on it.
So I heard that it was one soldier that has said this, that hasn't been verified by others. So that's the only concern that I have, especially because he is the soldier that also wanted to go in and destroy a Palestinian village about a month ago. So I don't know. There's a lot. The thing is Bill, this is more complicated than just black and white. I think. Again, when we go into these wartime things, we start to see a lot of propaganda. We've seen it with the Ukraine war. We've seen it with, time and time again with different things. So I think we need to be careful here. However, I do think that what happened in Israel is wrong, but also how did it happen, Bill? There had to be some indication that this was going to happen. It's one of the most, one of the most protected areas in the world.
Exactly.
The fact that they were able to pull this off, they had a lot of money. I'm sorry, and if you want to try to tell me that the money that's been coming from the U.S. was not a contributor to the fact that this could be executed.
This didn't go to humanitarian thing, for medicine and food and infrastructure. Now, this is extremely sophisticated. To go across that wall, as good as that wall is that I told you about in Israel, they were having drones go over and destroy the checkpoints. This is very, very sophisticated, and of course they had a lot of that. I think it was American military equipment. I can't imagine where they got that.
I don't know. I think number one, I think that Ukraine has sold a lot of it on the black market. And number two, gosh, Afghanistan seemed to have a lot of our equipment. For some reason. I can't imagine where that came from. Yeah.
So, yeah, come on in and buy these American tanks and helicopters. Oh, how about these night vision goggles, huh?
Yeah, really, really helpful for people, actually,
yes,
Bill.
Yeah, it'll help you when you go in if the hospital doesn't have any power, and you can go in and help the people there.
Yeah, and but Joe Biden did come out yesterday, and he
he realized there was a war.
Yes, I mean he woke up for that.
Didn't take long at all.
Yeah,
and it was after noon when he was speaking, so he was up past his bedtime.
Hey, well that's pretty good because usually he's putting the lid on everything at 11:30. So
that's right. Yeah,
I'm surprised he was out past noon.
Yeah,
but this is what he had.
I mean, this literally, when the pure, unadulterated evil is unleashed on this world. People of Israel lived through one such moment this weekend. The bloody hands of the terrorist organization Hamas, a group whose stated purpose for being is to kill Jews. This was an act of sheer evil. More than 1,000 civilians slaughtered, not just killed, slaughtered in Israel. Among them, at least 14 American citizens killed. Parents butchered using their bodies to try to protect their children. Stomach-turning reports of babies being killed. Entire families slain. Young people massacred while attending a musical festival to celebrate peace. Women raped, assaulted, paraded as trophies. Families hid their fear for hours and hours, desperately trying to keep their children quiet.
I mean, I will say at least he hasn't gone so far left that he's saying to protect Hamas, which we've heard from other people in this country, which I just, when it comes to women and children, they're off limits. I understand they're at war. This is not going to be pretty for the next several months, I'm going to assume. I don't think that this is going to die down for a little bit.
There's always collateral damage in war, but this is personal. This is evil. This is when we were carpet bombing places in the Second World War. There was a lot of collateral damage, yes, but it was a war. It was in a war zone. It was in places that had declared war on us, and this was where this was to say, look, we're not putting up with this anymore. But we didn't go in and specifically we targeted specific areas. We did not target people themselves. The civilians. If they got in the way, that was unfortunate.
Well, and I think that that's the one thing that Israel has been doing is they're like warning people, get out of this area. Yeah. We're going to be sending bombs over there, missiles. Get out. So that's an unusual thing in war, I would say. So it's not good. But Ben Shapiro, probably one of the most famous Jews in the U.S., listened to him yesterday, and obviously this is really close to home for him, and he knows several people over there. His in-laws are actually in Israel right now. They were trapped in a bomb shelter for about 11 hours on Saturday. So the reporting he's getting out of there, he talks about it, but he also said there is no possibility to work with these people. You have to eradicate evil. As long as Hamas exists, Jews are not safe. And I don't know about you, Bill, but living on a border, I mean, it's a very small area, like you said, 2 hours you can get across the country. But living in constant fear because there's a wall between you and these other people that their main goal is to kill you. And I don't think that, I do think that part of the problem is that those people have been terrorized by Hamas as well, and been told that it's Israel's fault that they're not getting the food, they're not getting supplies.
They blame Israel for everything.
So it's so complicated. But I do think that you're seeing Israel try to do the right thing by warning them about where the missiles are going, but there is going to be collateral damage. But the fact that evil has to be eradicated, you can't there's no talking to these people. They're never going to change their mind. And to see almost the joy that they got from doing this is eerie to me, Bill.
Oh, it is pathetic and disgusting and absolutely makes your stomach turn. It is just, it's not even, you can't even wander through this in your own mind, that this is even a possibility, that something, that human beings would do this to other human beings. When I was in Israel, we went to Yad Vashem, which is the Holocaust Museum. And I saw the pictures of these jackbooted thugs, Nazis, walking on top of babies that were, maybe 3 or 4 weeks old, just lying on this cobblestone street, and these Nazi soldiers are walking over the top of them. And I said, how is this possible? How could we actually, human beings, do this to other human beings? You have to dehumanize these people. And that's what they're taught. Anything that goes wrong is Israel's fault for these people. You're running out of food. Oh, the Jews are eating too much. You don't have enough water. The Jews are drinking it all. And then of course, in this Gaza Strip and everything, the Jews actually are supplying the water, the power. You might not want to, if you don't want your power turned off, you might want not to attack the people that are giving it to you. This is the classic. This is classic of the biting the hand that feeds you.
This works in Hamas's favor because it continues the narrative for them. So I don't know that they really care. I think it continues to enrage people on the Gaza Strip, and that's the whole goal. Yeah,
exactly. And then, of course, we have these idiots here in these colleges. And I think that one of the things that Dr. Mark Siegel pointed out on Fox last night is that they're going after specific people who are protesters. There was one girl, I think, who was she was at in a law school. She's just gotten landed a great job with a big law firm, and she posted something about how she was in favor of Hamas, and they withdrew her application.
Good. I mean, it's one thing that it's one thing that the left is not going to win on. You cannot take these images and say, okay, this is
okay.
Yeah,
these people are justified for doing this.
Yeah, there was also an actress who lost her YouTube channel and a bunch of things because she was posting pro-Hamas stuff as well. So I do think that at least we still kind of have a moral compass in this country.
To a degree.
To a degree. So at least that's happening. But the other thing that I thought was odd is that there was reporting coming out yesterday that music festival was actually moved about 72 hours prior into that location, which was less secure, which I thought was interesting. So saw some of that reporting yesterday. Yeah, I mean, hindsight's always 20/20, and I always think of JFK and how quickly they moved his route. And why that happened, and that it was a total setup.
And why did they pull his security?
Exactly. So
2 blocks before the assassination.
There's like so many questions that I think in the moment there's a lot of emotion, a lot of things going on that you don't question, but later on as things happen, you rewatch the video, you see kind of what happens, you start to see that maybe there was some more elements in play. Yeah,
for sure.
So
it's just amazing. But we have some here in Savannah. Our mayor touted a few months ago about how safe it was here. Where murders were down, shootings were down, and everything else. And ever since he said that, things have gotten worse. And now there is a football team that doesn't want to come to town to play a game in the dark. We'll talk about that coming up right after the break.
Serving the Savannah area with the power of the Shield since 1934, with personal insurance, employee benefits, and business insurance. With integrity, security, and trust. For more information, go to thepoweroftheshield.com.
Foxy Loxy, Coffee Fox, and Henny Penny, making life better for Savannahans with their kolaches, tacos, coffees. They're just amazing. Buy local and keep the torch lit.
I don't think it's an accident that I ended up writing music for a living, because I think I lived in a house where I saw how deeply it affected everyone in the house. And just how much everyone defined themselves by the music they listened to.
Music as a framework, I think, gave my parents my identity from a young age. You can like any music that you want if it makes you feel happy. And now when I hear certain songs, I think of them, and I think of them in their happiest state, and it makes me happy.
If they seem like they're having trouble talking about something, I try to tell them about a time when I felt something similar.
Whatever the issue was, we would tell them the pros and cons and how important it was that they had come to us because we could always help them. I think the real important point, we always told them, no matter what you do, no matter what happens, we will help you through it no matter what it is.
Are you a mom or dad? Do you have little kids with big dreams? Well, hopefully your kids aren't white or Asian, because if they are, they will have a very hard time getting into their dream college or landing their dream job. Top schools and corporations are run by left-wing Democrats, and they openly discriminate against whites and Asians. So even if your daughter has the best test scores, even if your son has amazing grades, even if they spend extra hours studying and doing everything right, it won't be enough. Unless you suddenly discover that you're part Cherokee, or transgender, or in the country illegally. Otherwise, your kids are out of luck. Which begs the question, if Democrats are hurting your children, why would you ever vote for them? Stop the bigotry. Stop the insanity. Paid for by Citizens for Sanity.
Whittle it away at a far more...
Welcome back to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
Well, we talked about the escalating crime situation here in Savannah, and it hasn't gone unnoticed in other communities around the area, including right up the street in Metter, Georgia. Now, Metter High School is supposed to be playing Savannah High School Friday night. Game time, usually our high school kickoffs are 7:30. Metter wants it to start at 6. They're coming here to play Savannah High at the Savannah High Stadium. And they said because of concerns that Metter has that most Georgia high school football games are played at 7:30, but they wanted to start at 6. WSAV, one of the stations here, reached out to Savannah Chatham County Public School System and got a response that I'm told that the game time with Metter was moved to address some concerns raised by the athletic staff at Metter. WSAV then reached out to Metter and was able to speak with their superintendent. Said he stated the school was concerned because of, quote, recent events on local news. About specifically, he was concerned about the recent morning shootings in Savannah and events that occurred at ball games, including, as you know, the Savannah High game had to be suspended with Cross Creek recently because of fights on the field and things of that nature. So that's what that's the situation. As it stands right now, he stated the superintendent in Metter, Fred Lawger, said they offered to move Friday night's contest, but the Blue Jackets declined. He said the two sides compromised on the move to move the time up to 6 o'clock. So they didn't really want to play at Savannah High School either in that community.
Well, and so here's the thing. The Mayor Van Johnson can say whatever he wants, but it's very clear to people even outside this community that Savannah is not as safe as it used to be. And yes, he used statistics to kind of to his advantage. He said that I think he said that murders were down in Savannah. However, shootings were up. So I think that you can play with statistics and make them say whatever you want them to say, but the crime has not decreased here. We had someone, shot in a drive-by last week on his way to school. I mean, there's serious problems in Savannah, and I understand that the mayor can't fix them all, and the DA has a lot to do with that. But what are we doing about the DA here, and what kind of pressure is she feeling? I don't know that she's feeling enough of it, because she seems to be, on vacation and doing different things, and she's living the high life at the moment. So.
Yeah, and the DA gets paid a pretty handsome salary.
Yeah, not bad at all. Not bad at all.
Yeah, so she can live the high life.
Yeah, but I don't blame people for not wanting to play here. I don't blame them for wanting it to be changed to 6 o'clock. I mean, but it gets dark around. The sun starts to set around 7.
The days are getting shorter.
Yes.
So that's another reason I hate daylight savings time.
Yes.
Just, all of a sudden, you're used to it getting dark around 8:30 or 9, and then all of a sudden it starts getting dark around 5:15, and you're like, oh, I guess it's time to go to bed.
Exactly.
What do you mean it's 6 o'clock?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, and Steve Stanton says, wreck on 17 turning onto Quaco. Police are on scene, and then these thugs don't care anymore about the time of day. That's true. We're seeing shootings at all hours, and it's not good for the community, and it's definitely not good for tourism too.
And when word gets out pretty soon, it starts trickling down to places like Travel Zoo or whatever.
Yeah.
And people say, well, let's see, Charleston is about the same. It's not much difference in the distance. Looks like their crime rate is way down because they enforce laws and things of that nature. Maybe we'll go there. Yeah,
I think that 2024 seems like a long time away when you are seeing the community really dwindle here. Not excited that we have that long. I don't know that this DA will have any sort of repercussions with the new commission that was started to take out some of these DAs that are not doing their job, but I guess we'll see.
I wish they would start doing their job.
Yes.
Start taking out some of these DAs.
Well, October 1st was the date set for them to come together. I've not seen any action on this committee at this point in time, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of faith in it, but 2024 seems like a long time away, especially since they don't get sworn in until 2025. So there's that.
Seems like an eternity.
Yes, it
You
sure
look back
does.
on it, and it seems like day before yesterday. But boy, when you're looking ahead, it's like, God, that'll never get here.
Yes, and good news. Some fun stuff is actually going to start in Savannah.
Now you're talking.
Yes, so if you've not been to a hockey game here, you should go. Their hockey games start October 20th, so it's a week from Friday.
Yeah, the Ghost Pirates in action, and the Ghost Pirate organization has been, the ownership and coaches and everybody else, and including the players, have been extremely pleased at how well received they have been. If you'd have said 20 years ago that Savannah was going to support a hockey team, they'd have looked at you and stuck you in a rubber room in a jacket somewhere. But hockey is becoming an extremely popular sport here in the sunny South, and it looks like it's just going to continue. Ghost Pirates start on the 20th.
Yeah, so some fun stuff to do.
It is a lot of fun. The place is usually packed, but there are still tickets available. I think they're pretty much sold out for season tickets, but you still get regular seats.
Yes, and great thing to do with the kids too. I think that's the other thing. It's,
without a doubt.
I think we have Savannah Bananas and we have the Ghost Pirates, but other than that,
we took our grandkids the first time that they went, and our 7-year-old was sitting there and he was watching. He said, what are they? And he was trying to figure out what they were doing, and we were sitting a little too low.
Yeah.
You really need to sit up high.
Yeah.
In a hockey game, but he was laying. Well, where's the? And he saw the puck. And he said, "Is that what it is? Is that what they're?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, "It ought to be bigger." I can't see it.
Well, that's the point, right?
Yeah, that's right.
It makes it harder.
Yeah, well, I said,
that's what makes it a sport.
When they hit this thing. In fact, there was an article on TV Guide magazine years ago when I was working in Channel 4 in Charleston. We were NBC was carrying hockey games, and there was an article in the paper in one of the magazines, the TV Guide magazine, that said, "What's black, round, and invisible?" And it was the hockey puck. It's hard for a TV camera to keep up with this thing.
Oh yeah.
So
it's hard for me to keep up.
Well, yeah, but I mean, when you whack this, it's vulcanized rubber, and it's about this big around, and when you hit it, when these guys hit it, this thing's hit, and it's like a baseball. It's going like 125 miles an hour. So it is hard to see, but wow, what a fun game to watch.
Yes, I used to go to. I
And
lived
it's
in
more fun
Nashville.
in person,
Yeah.
by
I was
the
going
way.
to say
Yeah,
I
it's-
went to Nashville Predators games, and those were wild. They were throwing fish and I don't know if you've ever seen that, but they throw
yeah.
fish on the ice.
Oh,
I don't know
yeah.
how they get into the stadium, but they sneak those in there.
People have ingenious ways of doing this.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So, but a little bit of fun here in Savannah, so you should go check that out.
Please do. You will enjoy it.
Yes.
Even if you don't know a blue line from a clothesline, you just go and enjoy the game, and they explain it to you a little bit, and they've got a little program where you get a feeling of the rules and what's going on.
Yes. Well, jumping back into some of the other news.
Oh yeah. Back to reality.
Yeah. Vivek Ramaswamy, candidate for president on the Republican side, came out yesterday. He has some controversial views on us staying out of other people's business in other countries. And he had a lot to say about what's going on in Israel.
Mike Tobin of Fox News has brought to viewers today, just a few hours ago, that Israeli soldiers have finally made it into some of the attacked areas and have found decapitated infants.
I mean, this is inhumane. These are war crimes. And Israel's response should be decisive, as I expect that it will be. And the U.S. role here should absolutely be to stand with Israel diplomatically, intelligence sharing, going further and providing munitions where needed for Israel to preserve its national existence. Israel has a right to defend its borders. Israel has a right to defend its national existence. And the United States should absolutely be behind Israel as it does, while also making sure, and I think this is critical, that we do not see a broader war in the Middle East that would not advance U.S. interests. I think we can do both of those things effectively, and I do think it's going to take a cool-headed, rational, but decisive response behind Israel to make sure the right thing happens.
So I definitely agree with him. I do think that the U.S. has to be cautious getting involved in everything because we have spent so much money on Ukraine. And I don't know that we're getting the results that they're telling us we're getting. There's a lot of questions there. And then, Israel has not asked for us to get involved, but I do think that the expectation would be that if they needed something that we would be supplying that to them.
Yeah.
They are one of our best allies. And I think that that's the other thing that's the difference between Ukraine and Israel, although I'm kind of, we've been in war most of my life.
Except when Donald Trump was president.
Yeah, and I think that,
about that.
Well, that's the other thing, Bill. Like at a certain point, like we've got to take care of our country. We've got to get back to where we need to be. We have a hard time. I mean, where are the supplies going to come from? Because we've depleted most of ours, correct?
It's the old charity begins at home type thing. We need to have a Manhattan type project for our ammunition. Because it takes a long time to build these bombs, and there's only one or two companies, organizations, or companies that make these things. So, because in World War II, there was a complete united effort by every manufacturer to manufacture stuff for the war effort. When I was in high school here, I was in junior ROTC. And one of the things, and the rifles that we marched with were in World War II M1s, and it was interesting to see the brands on the rifle. They all looked alike. They all worked just as well. Of course, the firing pins had been removed. We couldn't shoot them or anything like that. But they were all perfectly made, and one of them was made, but it started like looking at the manufacturer, and the stamp was like Winchester and the names that you recognize that make firearms for, that's their sole purpose. But one of them had RCA on it. One was made by Bendix Corporation.
Interesting.
It was fascinating to see all the different name brands that were on these rifles. So it was all part of a war effort. And food was rationed here, supplies were rationed here, because most of that was going toward the war effort. And for example, apropos nothing, but we had a great restaurant here, Johnny Harris. I'm sorry to see closed years ago, but it was one of the iconic restaurants here, and I grew up on their barbecue, and it was I miss it every day. But they started they couldn't get flour to fry their chicken, so they started frying it to just putting it in a fryer like they do French fries. and fry it without the batter. And it became so popular when flour became available again, they didn't go back. So they still, to this day, their grandson runs a place here called Bowtie.
Okay.
Now that and they still fry the chicken the same way. They don't use batter.
Oh, interesting. I didn't
And
know
it's
that.
delicious. So, so that was one of those serendipitous type things. But this is what we were up against, and everybody was for the war effort. They planted victory gardens. People were growing their own food. They were sharing it with neighbors. It was quite the united front. This is something that we need here. When we were building airplanes here, we built Liberty ships here in Savannah, 88 of them. And those were the unsung heroes of the Second World War were the merchant marines, because they were the ones taking the supplies over to Europe. And it was very dangerous because the German Wolfpack was sinking those ships right and left. So it was dangerous duty. But that's one of the reasons that we won the war, because we could supply our soldiers with food and water, something you don't think about logistically. And one of the things that Russia is having trouble with in Ukraine, they can't get supplies. So they got a lot of their soldiers that were starving, and they were breaking into houses just to get a can of corn because they couldn't get their supplies in, and that's one of the reasons that we won the war.
Yeah, Bill, we're going to have to do something different here. And Tucker Carlson, he had a lot to say about some of the people that are what we call warmongers. So we'll take a look at that when we get back.
Yeah.
Serving the Savannah area with the power of the Shield since 1934, with personal insurance, employee benefits, and business insurance. With integrity, security, and trust. For more information, go to thepoweroftheshield.com.
When I grow up, I want to work for a woke company, like super woke.
When I grow up,
I want to be hired based on what I look like,
rather than my skills.
I want to be judged
by my political beliefs.
I want to get promoted
based on my chromosomes.
When I grow up,
I want to be offended
by my coworkers
and walk around the office
on eggshells
and have my words policed
by HR. Words like
grandfather,
peanut gallery,
long time no see,
no can do.
When I grow up,
I want to be obsessed with emotional safety and do workplace sensitivity training all day long. When I grow up, I want to climb the corporate ladder
just by following the crowd.
I want to be a conformist. I want to weaponize my pronouns. What are pronouns?
It's time to grow up and get back to work. Introducing the #1 woke-free job board in America, redballoon.work.
Welcome back to Get Real America. I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
Glad to have you aboard on this Wednesday morning.
Yes, I'm glad to be here, Bill. It's been quite the week already. I will tell you, looking at news all the time, man, it can be a little taxing, especially with in times like these.
Oh, for sure. Well, Tucker Carlson is dropping the hammer on some of these warmonger type people.
Yeah, well, Nikki Haley is a big target of Tucker's lately. I do think that. It's interesting how the parties have really flipped. A lot of Republicans are not for continuing to be in these wars, and that could be because their kids are the ones fighting them.
Yeah.
I mean, that could be why. I don't see a lot of liberals actually joining the military unless they're using their pronouns. Mm-hmm. But, I think that this is something that people really need to look at. And I do feel like some of the establishment or the classic Republicans, we'll call them, are out of touch with the base. I do think that there are a lot of people that are just not okay with continuing to fund these wars. And, we want to be more strategic on when we're putting our people in danger, because we do have troops on the ground in Ukraine, regardless if they want to admit it or not, we all know that they're there.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So this is what Tucker had to say about Nikki. You know, Tucker, he's a little unleashed after he got off of Fox.
Yeah, he didn't kill the lily anyway, and now he's really
now it's
no holds barred.
No, definitely not.
So there's a lot at stake in how we encourage Israel to respond to the horrifying Hamas attacks. Wisdom and long-term thinking are essential, but you will not be surprised to learn that is not what we are getting. Watch this person, for example, who happens to be the media's pick for President of the United States.
This is not just an attack on Israel. This is an attack on America because they hate us just as much. And what we have to understand is this is the reason that we have to unite around making sure our enemies do not hurt our friends. America can never be so arrogant to think we don't need friends, just like we needed them on 9/11. That's why Ukraine needs us when Russia's doing this. That's why Israel needs us when Hamas and Iran are doing this. And I'll say this to Prime Minister Netanyahu, finish them. Finish them. Hamas did this. You know Iran's behind it. Finish them. They should have hell to pay for what they've just done.
This was an attack on America, she says, when in fact it was not. And for that reason, we must, quote, finish Iran, a nation of nearly 90 million people. What are we watching here? This is not sober leadership. She's a child, and this is the tantrum of a child, ignorant, cocksure, bloodthirsty. Yet no one in Washington scolded her for it. In fact, they aped her hysteria. Here's fellow neocon Lindsey Graham just spelling it out and calling for the bombing of Iran.
So I've been on the phone all day to the Mideast, and I've told our allies and people with connections to Iran, what I would do, I would tell Iran that if Hezbollah attacks Israel, we're going to come after you, the Iranians, and have a coordinated effort between the United States and Israel to put Iran out of the oil business by destroying their refineries. There are 4 major refineries in Iran. They're fixed targets. If Hezbollah attacks Israel, I would make Iran pay a heavy price.
What exactly would happen to the United States if we declared war on Iran and started blowing up their infrastructure? Lindsey Graham has no clue what would happen. He hasn't thought it through. He's almost 70 years old and he has no children. He doesn't care. But neither, amazingly, do most of his colleagues in Washington. They're as reckless as he is. Texas Congressman Dan Crenshaw took to social media to call for what he described as a war to end all wars, as if there is such a thing. But of course, there isn't such a thing. Wars beget more war. The bigger the conflict, the uglier and longer lasting the consequences. See World War I for details.
I think Tucker brings up a lot of good points. I know that I think that we don't think about the consequences, but go to Arlington Cemetery. Mm-hmm. I mean, we owe those people to be thoughtful in how we pursue war in this country because it's their lives that were sacrificed for this country. And I will say there are a lot of people that were in Afghanistan for a long time that wonder if what they did was the right thing, if they should have been there, especially after the withdrawal with Biden and how awful it was and how it was for nothing. We have our weapons that are now probably being used against Israel right now. So I think that there are big consequences for us getting involved in all of these. And again, people my age are sick of being in wars. We have a generation of broken men because of these wars. We have families that have been broken up because of these wars. It has impacted us in a very negative way. And we still don't know why we went over there. There were no weapons of mass destruction.
Well, I think a lot of them were moved out of the country. But the whole point is, this should have been handled entirely differently. And had I lost legs or an arm, or I had to have one of those houses built for me that the Tunnel to Towers group is doing, or something like that, and saw the way we withdrew from this thing, and just okay, we've been there 20 years, we're done, and by the way, all these people that we said we were going to help that helped us for 20 years believed in us, and helped us and said, no, no, we're not going to bring you with us. We're just getting out of there. And the way this way this withdrawal was handled is just pathetic, and I would be outraged if I were sitting there without my legs or an arm or an eye or anything of that nature, or had been killed or had a son or daughter killed over there, or that they had lost an eye or leg or some of their body parts, and this is the thanks that they get, and you wonder why the recruiting levels are so low now. Why the military, for the most part, is not reaching their recruiting goals, because and then they're being told that it's very important for you to have these transgender people in your ranks, and to have these twerk parties or whatever that they have for them, and so that is actually increasing morale, and we're a better fighting force because we know our pronouns. You're a better fighting force when you know how to kill the enemy and you have ammunition to do it.
Well, and I just went to an event over the weekend, actually, Folds of Honor. I don't know if you guys can see this, but it was a really great event, and the woman that spoke lost her husband, and their kids have gone on to school. One has graduated from college, and the other one is still in college, but they have been without their dad longer than they had their dad. Mm-hmm. And those people made sacrifices too. It wasn't just the soldiers that went over there. It's a lot of families. Yeah. And
the back and forth deployment.
It's hard.
When I was coming up with, Vietnam was the big deal. Mm-hmm. But if you went to Vietnam, you went once. It was a 9 month to 1 year deployment. And when you got back, you weren't told you were going back again in 6 months or a year. Unless you volunteered to go back. Some went back 2 or 3 times. I know I had a good friend of mine, one of our engineers at WJCO when I was working, was a Marine. He'd been there 3 times, but that was on a voluntary basis.
Well, and you have people going 8 to 12 deployments.
When I hear about these guys, so you're home for about 9 months, and you're thinking about getting deployed again. When you're over there, you're thinking about being home and about the family, and pretty soon, mom just say, and the kids just say, "Okay, we've had it. We're out of here."
Well, it's very hard.
I'll find a guy that he may not be. I heard even in World War II, I heard one guy reading this letter, a Dear John letter that he'd gotten, and she said, "Well, maybe this guy wasn't I fell for this other guy, and maybe he was not as great as you, but at least he's here."
Well, it's hard because they come home long enough to where, you get pregnant, you have a baby, but then they're gone for a long time, and they aren't able to see the kid grow up. They're not able to participate, and it's very hard on families.
Or imagine, just like the family you were talking about, they were been without their dad longer than they had their dad. How about those who never knew their dad?
Yeah.
They were born. The mom was pregnant when dad was killed. Mm-hmm. And that we got a good friend, a police officer here who his father, he never knew his dad. He was 3 weeks old when his father was killed, not on the line of duty, but on an off duty, making some extra money. Mm-hmm. And he was killed by these thugs at a Greyhound bus station.
Yeah, and Steve Stanton Sr. says USA about 6 days late on sharing info. Lizzie Warren says very difficult on the children to change schools every few years. Mm-hmm. And Steve Stanton Sr., World War II, you were deployed and returned after victory.
Yeah. And by the way, that's the last war we fought to win. That's the whole thing. We were even told, and did we learn our lesson? Russia tried fighting Afghanistan. And after about 10 or 12 years, they said, this is pretty much worthless. We're out of here. So we didn't learn a lesson from that. And one of the things that they took, we have what's called low-yield nukes. And we have these very, very powerful bombs that are not nuclear. We could have used those to bomb these caves or whatever and get this thing taken care of in a hurry without putting boots on the ground. We could have the boots on the ground could have been the special forces type guys, mm-hmm. The Delta Force, special forces, the SEALs and things of that nature. And the Air Force has a special unit as well. But it's just what we have done here has been absolutely worthless. thinking that we can spread democracy or whatever, this precious democracy, to the rest of the world. That was one of the things that one of the former Third ID commanders that I liked a lot, General Glenn Webster. When he came back, he addressed us at Navy League one night, and he said the biggest problem they're having over there is giving the Afghans a sense of country. They're all tribes over there.
Yeah, it's very different.
It was like, when we came here, and all the Indians, that are now considered Native Americans, but they were all different tribes. They were warring with each other. They were killing each other. They weren't all together and saying this is one big happy country. And he said that was the problem they were having in Afghanistan, giving these people, here's your flag, this is what you're fighting for. You're fighting for uniting Afghanistan. Well, they didn't want that. Everybody had their little fiefdom, and they were happy with that.
Well, and I think that's the thing. We cannot push our values on other people.
Exactly.
We can barely get them here at home. We need to focus on what we need to do in this country because we're falling apart here. We can't be so worried about what other countries are doing that we're sacrificing our own country for it. And I just think that we really need to think about those things when we look at how many people have sacrificed so much for this country. And are we in a place to continue to do that? Because it's very hard on families. It's very hard. And the other thing is what we did in Afghanistan, there were people that had never lived under the Taliban.
Yeah.
And when we left, their life changed, and it was not for the better. And women were the ones impacted. So, for all these people that cheer this stuff on, that are on the left, I don't understand it, because you guys are the believe all women people.
Yeah.
You're the people that believe in women's rights until the trans movement came along, and now we don't exist. So.
Yeah. But and why aren't you over there working with them for their rights? Because all of a sudden, all the women started getting fired from their jobs. Girls were thrown out of school. All
and they were forced to marry these guys.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not good for anyone. Before we jump to break, Mary McCann Hybrider says endless wars only benefit the military-industrial complex. And Lizzie Warren says it's supremely arrogant to think we can change another country's culture.
Yeah.
100% agree.
Although they're trying to change ours.
Yes,
All
they
right.
are.
Coming up next.
We're going to be talking about who is running as an independent now. Could get interesting.
Let's find out. Stay real.
When you're looking to buy a business or sell a business, the experts at Best Business Brokers have you covered. Whether you're ready to cash in on your years of hard work or you're taking that first step in buying a business of your own, they're here to guide you through the process and make sure you get the best outcome possible. By having Best Business Brokers assist you when you buy a business or sell a business, they handle the legwork of the intricate process. This ensures a smooth transition of ownership, allowing you to get to work immediately or receive payment for your business as soon as possible. With base operations in Savannah and Charleston, they service all of Georgia and South Carolina. If you're considering starting a business here, the mild winters and 5-tiered economic areas make these the perfect places to do so. If you're ready to buy a business or sell a business, then you're ready to contact Best Business Brokers. Visit their website at b3brokers.com or call at 912-349-0940.
Who is a kid? Well, that's a kid. And another. Look, a gaggle of them. Or is it a herd? Litter? Pride. But what about her? Tell her she's not a kid. Or him. So how do we tell who is a kid? Height? Age, maybe. But some of us have to grow up faster than others. A kid. A kid. A kid wants to make the world better. And one day, he just might. Is a kid fearless? Vulnerable? Strong? Nervous? Yes. 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 Kiwanis is 600,000 kids at heart doing all the little and big things it takes to help children around the world. Because kids need Kiwanis. All of them.
Have you ever boarded a plane and thought to yourself, I hope the pilot is a transgender refugee? Have you ever gone to the emergency room and said, I hope my medical team is incredibly diverse? Have you ever moved to a new city and said, I hope the police department hit its equity goals for the year? If your answer to these questions was no, if you just wanted the most qualified candidates for the job, then you are normal. But we have a lot of very not normal people running America these days. Left-wing politicians believe skin color or gender identity should determine who gets the job. Democrats used to care about the middle class. Now they just care about your race and your gender. And as long as Democrats stay in power, it will just keep getting worse. Stop the bigotry. Stop the insanity. Paid for by Citizens for Sanity.
Savannah, I'm coming home. Savannah, we'll never be alone. Savannah, the beauty of the world. Savannah, let's all take a walk. Savannah, I'm coming home. Savannah.
Welcome back to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
Glad to have you aboard on this Wednesday here as we head down the home stretch here. Got a comment or two?
Yeah, so Steve Stanton Sr. says, why can't I find y'all on YouTube? But then you said you found it. We are being shadow banned, and we're probably kicked off of YouTube like every 2 to 3 weeks, I would say.
Yeah, we get in.
They really
YouTube,
like us.
Yeah, we YouTube purgatory because nothing gets you in trouble these days like the truth.
Yes. So.
And it's interesting, I read these quotes that throughout history about the truth. There's a Spanish proverb that says, tell the truth, then leave quickly. Our proverb says, he who tells the truth should keep one foot in the stirrup. And it just goes down the line of people saying, you wanted to hear the truth, and then you get mad about it.
Well, because the truth is, especially these days, it's not easy to hear, especially when, you know, I went to the Board of Elections meeting earlier this week, ended up talking to a lady. We definitely are not in agreement on things. We are not on the same side of the aisle, which is fine. However, she only wanted me to hear her point of view. When I asked her questions, she got more upset. So it was an interesting conversation that really didn't get me anywhere, but it's like, okay, we're never going to agree. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of interesting. She didn't want to hear the truth.
Yeah, no. And the thing is that, and what's worse about some of these liberals is that when you show them the truth, they still won't believe it.
Well, that's another thing.
Say, here's the video. Here's this. Here's that. And they like when they. I remember when ABC and some of the others used to do these undercover investigations where the guy would call the repairman. And they would watch him, and he'd come in, and he'd bring in this new little motor or something he needed to replace it with, but he wouldn't actually replace it. He'd keep the motor, he'd kind of oil up the old one, and then they show him the video, and he said, "That's not me." What do you mean it's not you?
Of course it's you. You're right here.
Golly.
Well,
geez.
The other thing is so we were talking about, of course, the voting machines, and I talked to her about 2,000 Mules, and she says that movie's BS, and I'm like, okay, they use the same geo-tracking as they're using to track January 6th visitors. Or so what are you saying, that the technology's bad? What are you saying here? She didn't really have an answer for that. She also said that the Haldeman report was also BS, and that the MITRE report, which was commissioned by Dominion, was the better report. But she had not read Haldeman. And she also said that, she's like, well, who paid for a Haldeman report? And I just looked at her and I said, you know that he's not a conservative by any means. He leans left. And she's like, oh, I don't care. And when you start challenging people, they don't really have a response. They just kind of like get mad. That's what I've learned. So sometimes those things are not productive. But anyways, Lizzie Warren says telling the truth is dangerous sometimes. It sure is.
Yeah, boy. And notice, once again, we like to emphasize this. Nobody hates liberalism more than liberals. When they are confronted with the truth, when all these people start reading from these books, when we go to the school board meetings and they start reading from these pornographic books that they have in the school library, they said, you can't say that this is a public meeting. You can't say that. There are children here. Well, isn't that the point? Duh. And then they said, well, not many people check those books out anyway. They collect more dust than they do anything else. Well, they shouldn't be there to get dusty in the first place.
100%, Bill. You were absolutely right.
Yeah. So when you confront them, just like all the sanctuary cities.
Amazing how that turned out for everyone, isn't it?
Yeah. And Martha's when I thought when Ron DeSantis sent those just 60 people to Martha's Vineyard, and they just had a cow. What a racist he was. How dare he do something like this and to our community. We don't have room for these people. Now, just remember, this was just after the tourist season when 200,000 tourists had just left. But they didn't have room for 60 illegal aliens.
Yeah, it's amazing. They're a bunch of hypocrites.
Yeah.
I think you can always point it out. You can always find where they're being hypocritical. Mary McCann Hyber says, give them the facts and they will tell you their feelings. And Lizzie Warren said they gave them sack lunches and waved goodbye on Martha's Vineyard. So they're doing something. The news cycle has been dominated by everything going on in the Middle East. But something happening here at home that is quite interesting. We haven't had this in, I think, a couple decades. We have someone running as an independent off of the DNC ticket, which is going to split votes. I don't know where they're going to come from, if we'll see maybe some Republicans voting for RFK Jr., or if we will see more Democrats swaying, because we all see how Joe Biden has done.
But honestly, this guy is still a Democrat. No, believe me, even though RFK Jr. is going to be running as an independent, he's still very much a Democrat. That is in the DNA for the Kennedy family. But he's decided, he's going to drop out from the DNC and run as an independent. Here's what he said.
At hotels and malls on the street, and they remind me that this country is ready for a history-making change. They are ready to reclaim their freedom, their independence. And
I saw that and I thought, is that innocent?
And that's why I'm here today. I'm here to declare myself an independent candidate.
So Kennedy announcing there that he is running as an independent. So here's a good indicator for you. He says during this speech, Happy Indigenous Peoples Day. So he did this on Monday.
For Columbus Day?
So the thing is where he's at. So I hope that Republicans also look at this and know that he is still pro-abortion. I'm sorry, I can't say pro-choice. It's pro-abortion.
It's pro-abortion. It's pro-death.
Yes. So he is pro-abortion. He does like limiting the Second Amendment. You know what? He's very good on vaccines. I will give him that. He's very good on wanting to tear up the government because of his family history.
Got a book on it.
Yes.
Yeah.
But definitely.
And by the way, Rand Paul's book is out now, and he's calling for he wants Fauci arrested, and I wouldn't be opposed to that at all. For what he put us through, and how much we depended on him during the stupid shutdown that we had 3 years ago that was just totally worthless.
Yeah, and I will say that this is going to hurt Trump a little bit because people are really upset about the vaccine, and Trump has not come to terms with the fact that the vaccine was not the answer. Which it does hurt him with some conservatives.
What he thought, Anthony Fauci was sold to us as the premier research scientist in this country. He was the highest paid public servant in the country,
Mm-hmm.
That was getting a $500,000 salary.
Yeah, I don't trust anyone that works for the government for that long. But Lizzie Warren says RFK only aligns with some conservatives on vaccine hesitancy.
Yeah,
Fauci's fraud consigned by my mother to her home when she was dying.
Yeah, that's the story right now, is that he is not believe me, he's not the conservative that you might think he is. Don't fall for that. Let the Democrats go over and vote for him and split the vote that way.
Yeah, and the people that don't like Trump, I'm sorry, look at where we're at. Look at where we were. I mean, there is no comparison. I don't care how you feel about his personality.
Yeah.
People think that he's, vile, whatever.
Please.
I'm sorry, he knows how to negotiate, and he can get us to a better place.
The guy in office now is vile. You talk to anybody that knows him behind the scenes, he is the north end of a southbound horse. And that's the nicest thing we can say.
Yeah, so I mean, hopefully people will wake up and, no matter who the candidate is in the Republican Party, we get behind them and we get out and vote, because Republicans are stubborn and don't vote
early and often.
Yes.
That's going to wrap it up for us on this Wednesday. We will see you to wrap it up the week for tomorrow.
Yes.
So stick around and stay real. Help us out. We need your help.
Yes, don't
Be
forget
sure to donate.
Donate, become a member, or you can also advertise with us if you have a business.
Otherwise, we ain't going to be here. So here are your options, and you can go to thelocalspin.com and see all the information and make your donation. Please. Thank you.
Thanks again. Have a good day.
God bless.